Pacific Forum leaders and meets with 41-point communique. New Zealand increases Pacific aid.
We're very committed to what we're doing.
And Ley City prepares for independence celebrations.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and thanks for joining me with Friday's news. The 46 Pacific Islands Forum formal meetings concluded with the release of a 41 points communique. The highlight was the Pacific stance on the West Papua issue and the Pacific's position on climate change. The endorsement of the Hiri Declaration was one of the outcomes of the forum aimed at strengthening connections to enhance Pacific regionalism. Prime Ministers of Australia and New Zealand joined other forum leaders, including the associate members, in their deliberations on climate change, ICT, cervical cancer, fisheries and West Papua.
French Polynesia, New Caledonia and Tokelau attended the formal sessions as associate members, while Timor-Leste attended as an observer in the 2015 Pacific Island Forum. The leaders have welcomed the progress made in the implementation of the framework for Pacific regionalism, including the establishment of the Specialist Subcommittee on Regionalism. Chaired by Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, the 46th Pacific Island Forum reached several understanding on issues affecting the Pacific, including climate change and West Papua. The leaders have endorsed the Pacific Island Forum Leaders' Declaration on Climate Change Action, a declaration aimed at amplifying the Pacific voice to influence the Paris outcome.
Pacific Island leaders have, of course, made some declarations on the climate change action plan. And one of the major ones been that we appreciate that there is current and projected impacts of climate change because the region's vulnerability, given the limited capacities that we have.
What's important is the appreciation by Australia and New Zealand of the position, the very vulnerable position of those of us on the front line of climate change. And of course, that is a reality we have to face, and a reality that we have to face into the future.
Australia and New Zealand have already announced very ambitious targets for emissions reduction to take to the Paris conference. New Zealand's got a 30% target, Australia's got a 26 to 28% target for emissions reductions, and that compares to 25% for Japan, 4% for Korea, and of course China is going to have a 150% increase in its emissions between now and 2030. And on a per capita basis, Australia's target is actually the most ambitious target in the developed world, certainly of those countries that have so far announced a target.
On fisheries, the leaders have agreed that the joint task force led by appropriate agencies would lead the development of the regional roadmap for sustainable Pacific fisheries and directed an increase achievable within the next 5 years. The forum leaders have recognized Indonesia's sovereignty over Papuan provinces, but they've noted concerns about human rights situation, therefore requesting the chair to convey the views of the forum to the Indonesian government and to consult on a fact-finding mission.
On West Papua, we note and we respect the sovereignty of Indonesia over West Papua. And of course, we also note some of the concerns that we have about human rights situation in the Papuan provinces. And that is why we are calling on all parties to protect and uphold the human rights of all residents in Papua.
The leaders have considered French Polynesia's application for full membership of the Pacific Island Forum. A decision for full membership is pending a review of the criteria for admission of new members to the forum. Regional assistance mission to Solomon Islands was also noted in the 2015 report. It is now confirmed that the Federated States of Micronesia will host next year's meeting, while Samoa in 2017, followed by Nauru and Tuvalu in 2019. Michelle Amba, National EMTV News.
The Commonwealth stands ready to assist small island states in the Pacific mitigate the impact of global warming. Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Kamalesh Sharma, says the Commonwealth has been carrying out global advocacy on the injustices faced by small island states in the Pacific. He says global action on climate change is needed to address this issue, and the Commonwealth is working on capacity building mechanisms to help these small island states,
which will enable them to access finance which exists for adaptation. We're also coming up almost there with a natural disaster rescue financial plan, which will enable them predictably to get to a certain significant amount, for which a contribution need not be made by them. So this will be a Commonwealth approach. And another one is trying to develop a bond. It will be kind of a green bond. If you want to invest in renewable energy, then the finances can be made more easily available.
New Zealand aid to the Pacific will increase to $1 billion over the next 3 years. The New Zealand Prime Minister said with this increase, aid to the Pacific now represents 60% of the total amount of aid that the country provides.
Yeah, a variety of countries getting a variety of different aid for different reasons. So I think PNG actually is the second largest place that we give aid to in the Pacific. So I'd say proportionally it'll increase fairly much everywhere, but it'll depend on what projects are happening and where people need help. Vanuatu, for instance, recently has been pretty badly affected by their cyclone, and we've been making special one-off grants there. But given they face a bill of around about $700 million, we might have to look to do more, for instance. So there'll be specific areas where there's a great need, but just across the board, we're very committed to what we're doing. And some years ago, when Julia Gillard was Prime Minister of Australia, we jointly agreed on education services, for instance, and that rollout's continuing.
The Christian Health Services has confirmed receiving August grants for salaries and operational funds. These grants were released this week by the national government and will be distributed to all its agencies. But the challenge remains for the July outstanding grants to be released soon. EMTV's Fabian Akalis has more.
The Christian Health Services has confirmed the financial situation affecting salaries and operations of its line agencies around the country. This was in support of calls from its agency, Catholic Church Health Services, for funds still owed by the national government.
You can imagine this causes very big stress for the health staff and for the running of health facilities.
People really suffered in the rural areas. And again, this time it's again the same areas who are affected than it was previously. So I think the government would have an obligation to really look into this.
Christian Health Services Deputy Chief Executive Officer Bernard Trutmat confirmed delay of July and August grants.
We're just confirming that, and we want to relay this to our agencies that the August funding has come, and we're just waiting some paperwork to be completed before those the funding are posted into the various agencies' accounts in the country.
Christian Health Services is aware of PNG's financial situation and pleads with agencies but cannot do much and called on all agencies to cooperate.
Non-payment and the outcome of the delay in grants could result in a more dangerous situation, and where services can be cut, staff will be laid off, and those are consequences of non-funding of health services in the church and also in the rural areas.
12.3 million kina grant is released every month, 2.3 million kina for operations and 10 million kina for salaries.
I have the paperwork done within this week, and hopefully we release all the funds by next week.
The Christian Health Services Secretariat is working closely with the National Health Department to ensure funds are made available to all agencies. But the call remains for the national government to release funds on time to avoid disruptions of services. Fabian Hakalitz, National EMTV News.
Well, prior to her official meeting with the Pacific Island leaders, the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State visited U.S.-funded projects in and around Port Moresby today. The Deputy Secretary's first point of call was at Boira Village, just outside Port Moresby.
The U.S. official to the Pacific Leaders Forum was welcomed by a group of warriors who were delighted by her participation in their antics. Deputy Secretary Heather Higginbottom was very happy with the hospitality that was shown.
It's terrific, amazing. First, I have to say the hospitality is incredible.
The serious part of the visit was the launching of a water catchment system that is being built by U.S. aid. Boira Village is part of the Coastal Communities program that covers 77 Pacific Island communities. Under this program, communities explore ways to react to climate change impacts.
It's really important to be able to see on the ground how our programs are working and understand how the community and village input is impacting the design of that. And as we look at additional resources and additional communities, how we can learn from the experiences here and bring it to other places.
Other U.S.-supported projects that the Deputy Secretary visited was the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart Center in Gerehu Stage 2. The center provides hostel facilities, early learning programs, and skills and issues trainings. A small grant of 12,000 kina has contributed towards the training program. Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
Indonesia says the inclusion of West Papua as an agenda on the Pacific Leaders Forum is seen as an unfriendly gesture. This was raised during the post-forum dialogue where Pacific Island Forum leaders and their dialogue partners met to discuss interventions on the forum's agenda item. An Indonesian government representative called the human rights abuses in the Papuan provinces of Indonesia as baseless and unsubstantiated claims, and he says it shows an ignorance of facts. After deliberations on the 5 agenda items yesterday, the forum leaders' official stance on the West Papua issue is they recognize Indonesia's sovereignty over the Papuan provinces but noted concerns about human rights situations. Community wants Bawa to remain as NCD Metsup and serious allegations against Madang police. Stay tuned for those stories and more coming up after this break. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. The 8 Mile community in Port Moresby has called on Police Commissioner Gary Bucky to keep Superintendent Andy Bawa as the NCD Metropolitan Superintendent. Their call comes after the Commissioner announced a reshuffle on 16 senior positions within the constabulary nationwide. They are the second community in Port Moresby to make this call since the announcement earlier this week.
The community justified their call to keep Mr. Bawa on the grounds that they experienced a decrease in alcohol-related issues in 8 Mile after the superintendent imposed an alcohol ban in 2014. Community leader Charles Storm says while the police commissioner has powers to transfer offices, Mr. Bucky must consider the level of trust the police has gained from the public, particularly in Port Moresby in the last 3 years.
Law inshallah must be go down because of Metro work. You get network inshallah community lily line to the highest level so that time issue me come community. The
reshuffle has moved Mr. Bawa to head the newly created Highlands Eastern Regional Command as Deputy Commander. He is replaced by Chief Inspector Ben Turi. Other changes in the NCD Command include Acting Assistant Commander for NCD and Central Province, Jerry Frank, moved to head the Traffic Department. Chief Inspector Silas Wayagure, the current Superintendent for Operations in NCD, will be transferred to Gulf as the Provincial Police Commander. The change in the NCD Police boss means a new relationship with not only the new Metsup, but with operations and administration superintendents, the community say. MTV's attempt to get a camera interview with the commissioner this week was unsuccessful. However, the commissioner released a media statement on Wednesday stating he will continue with the reshuffle because it is intended to improve the police service across the country. Tekla Gunga, National MTV News.
East New Britain Police will be headed by a new police boss following a reshuffle of commanders by the police commissioner last week. Outgoing East New Britain Police Commander Superintendent Anthony Wagambi Jr. will be replaced by Morobe's PPC Chief Superintendent Kaiglo Ambane. Superintendent Wagambi Jr. will head the Lays Metropolitan Command, replacing his predecessor, Chief Superintendent Ivan Lakatani. In a police statement released late yesterday, Superintendent Wagambi said he accepted his transfer to lead lay police in one of the cities known for all the wrong reasons. Wagambi had served as the Provincial Police Commander for East New Britain for the past 2 years. Australian Federal Police are closer to being deployed to the front line in Papua New Guinea. Australian PNG are moving towards an agreement to deploy armed Australian officers in Port Moresby. Prime Minister Tony Abbott and PNG Prime Minister Peter O'Neill discussed the issue today, with Mr Abbott hopeful of progress in coming weeks or months. There are currently 73 AFP officers already deployed to PNG, but they are in a training and advisory role only, and while some patrol with the Royal PNG Constabulary, they cannot intervene or make arrests. A full deployment of operational armed Australian officers in PNG would likely cost several millions of dollars a year. There are serious allegations against the Madang police following the clashes between Govstore and Biliao Mouse Road settlers. These clashes have resulted in several homes going up in flames and 2 deaths so far, with the situation still very tense.
Leaders of the Govstore community told the Madang Police Investigations team that they are ready to sue the state for negligence on the part of the police and that they have evidences of police involvement with their current rival community, the Biliam Mouse Road.
One will go long civil case, long court in state, long police negligence. And police assisted raid long. People got pellets from police, got a back pocket now, sell all rounds were police. Before through all monkeys a fight on the Molani. Only come like every round of fire.
This follows an incident that happened last month on the 26th Settlement Road, where a couple were attacked and slashed with knives after an attempt by a youth from the Govstore community to rape the wife failed. The Govstore people expressed their frustrations over what had happened so far, resulting in the deaths of 2 children and 19 houses burnt to the ground, but they say they do not want to retaliate as they want peace to be restored.
Why not this man should gun on the Lulu? Man will provoke him maybe in the suit or man will enough to size them and shoot him down.
Bring the culprit forward, cut him all long, as on the mirror.
Detective Inspector Stephen Yalamu, the officer in charge of criminal investigations, explained to the community that his team has to have physical evidences as proof before the arrest of any suspect is made.
Only come shoot long gun, only cookie mouse, only making one something, you play sour. And this evidence, I must come long and police. Now me like tomorrow that's all. Uside house blue fire, uside you look in the Slamani press trigger. Uside you looking because allegation he come to police force and police him na. He come inside. You uside you looking this law something. Me like him. You must come looking me like CID office na. Me plan working investigation on this law.
Inspector Yalamu also explained to the Govstore community that the Biliam Mouse Road community had asked for the attempted rape suspect to surrender himself to police within 2 weeks, but since that did not eventuate, they have decided to attack again.
You plan must cooperate with the police. Why we go to talk on this law line? Only must cooperate with the police. Long working this investigation will come up good, so that Sinon diplomacy will come up no more.
Meanwhile, a rather serious appeal from the Govstore leaders is going out to journalists reporting clashes like the one they are going through to be investigative so that both sides have their says.
The reporter to talk something again. I must make him investigative reporting. No one wanna get my story number. It's very can trigger my program. All mangili all belad na start. Not all they want to walk in it. So because of leader man lay strong. No. You must go to low pastor.
Rachel Shise, National EMTV News, Madang.
The public has been encouraged to get physically fit now. The theme for this year's World Physiotherapy Day, Fulfilling Potential, encourages us to be physically fit to fulfill our destinies. Divine Word University physiotherapy students have driven this awareness campaign, highlighting the importance of people keeping physically fit to avoid illness and injury. The day was celebrated with a variety of activities that began with a road run around Madang town. DWU is the only university in Papua New Guinea that runs a stand-alone physiotherapy program. Preparations for the nation's 40th independence celebrations are beginning in Lae City. Lae City's Ward 2 Council held its first awareness today. The ward covers the town area. Bicycle riders clad in red, black and gold went around the city today, promoting the country's 40th anniversary. In these pictures, Ward Councillor Carol Yawing and the Ward 2 community seen stopping at Top Town to address the public. Every ward throughout the city are expected to hold smaller independence celebrations, leading up to the much-anticipated celebrations at the Sir Ignatius Kilage Stadium on September 16. And now let's take a look at the finance news. The Kina closed unchanged at $0.3550 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, our Kina was trading at $0.3475 $0.4884 Australian dollars, $0.3043 euro, and 41.59 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold and copper closed the day lower, while coffee and cocoa closed the day higher. Palm oil and copper closed higher, while crude oil closed the day lower. And lastly, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 77 points lower, the ASX closed at 119 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 126 points higher as well. We continue with National EMTV News with worries in the education and health sectors. Stay tuned for those stories and more. Welcome back to the news. Chief Executive Officer of Boram General Hospital in Wewak, Mark Maludu, expressed his concerns on the poor conditions of the hospital facilities. The people of East Sepik have been using these facilities for years without any maintenance done to the buildings. He told EMTV News that the facilities are not up to standard and urgent attention is needed.
Boram General Hospital in East Sepik Province continues to operate and serve the people of East Sepik despite its sad deteriorating state. CEO of Boram Hospital, Mark Mauludu, has big promising plans for a facelift and is hoping that the deteriorated infrastructures will soon go under renovations.
Since the opening of the hospital up until now, there's not been any infrastructure in terms of maintenance. There's nothing been happening. National department, we have come up with, so for the first and second phase of the hospital, we've already done the technical designs. So all this already been documented, and it's going to cost us about 15 million. And that is the money that we would like to receive as soon as we can.
It is alleged that over 20 million kina earmarked for Boram General Hospital was taken away by the national government.
Though there was some funding earmarked to us in 2012, 2013, things did not happen the way we would like. So that funding, because it was not being spent by the hospital, so national government actually took that money away from us for the South Pacific Games infrastructure and all that. So now we're now left with no money now. One major challenge for us is, again, in terms of the wear and tear, it's our morgue. Morgue is not working. So we have been having complaints. We're now trying to receive, court cases, getting court cases, about us not keeping bodies to a required level that they can go out to relatives with good conditions. So that is one challenge for us, to look at new morgue for the hospital with new equipment and all that.
These are all plans already in place, and according to CEO Mauludu, funding will make all these plans come into reality. Boram General Hospital facilities are in dire need of maintenance. The hospital facilities have been here for many years and nothing much has changed since the hospital's establishment in 1952. CEO Mauludu says architects are working on the plan and hopes funding will soon be made available by responsible relevant authorities for the facelift of the hospital. Florence John Duo, National EMTV News, Wewak.
Catholic agency schools in Central Province are likely to face a temporary suspension of classes due to non-payment of tuition fee refunds. These schools have exhausted all their funds due to the prolonged delay and are now appealing for intervention from authorities for operations to continue. MTV's Fabian Akalitz has more.
The Catholic Bishop of Berina Diocese, Roku Stathamai, called a media conference today and highlighted the current situation faced by these schools affected by delay of tuition fee funds and shortfalls in payments. These schools include Minor Secondary and Technical School in Berina and Sacred Heart High School in Tapini, part of the over 80% of schools operated under the Berina Catholic Education Agency. The situation is critical and funds have been exhausted and cannot continue operations.
To that extent, both these schools have no more money to continue the operations, and that is our biggest concern. They have actually dug into their reserves, and that is where we are at. Sacred Heart High School in Tapini had been particularly affected because 50% of these schools' 2014 TFF amounting 199,000 kina was not paid last year. And we are still chasing after this money, having made representation to the Department of Education.
Bishop Rokus described this as a crossing situation for remote schools that are development priority of the national government.
We've been almost like sent to a go around with always the assurance that something is going to happen. But now the situation has caught up with us. And so there is nothing more we can do. We've done our best to make to raise the issues with the relevant authorities, and up to now, there's been no prompt response to our appeal.
Representations have been made to respective political leaders in their advice for funding support, but requests have been pending. The Diocesan Education Board approved for students to be immediately sent home by next week if funding is still a problem. Fabian Haklitz, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, the 72nd Venice International Film Festival, the oldest film festival in the world, kicked off last Wednesday with a breathtaking new addition from the Pacific. The film, Tana, directed by Australians Bentley Dean and Martin Butler, is based on a true love story fraught with tragedy and filmed in Vanuatu with local actors. The script was co-written with the people of Yakel, as the movie is filmed in their tribal language and is based in Tana, an island in Vanuatu's Tathea province. The story began when filmmakers Bentley Dean and Martin Butler witnessed a village dispute over an arranged marriage, a strong Vanuatuan tradition. Following mounting pressure from the global community to distribute refugees fairly between nations, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott announced this week that Australia will accept 12,000 Syrian refugees. The intake is in addition to Australia's annual refugee quota of 13,750. Australia will also assist displaced people living in Syria's neighbouring countries with 44 million Australian dollars. The Abbott's government has also expanded air operations in Syria in response to a formal request from Washington. The Refugee Council of Australia called the move an important step in demonstrating Australia's support of those in great need. Greens Party leader Richard Di Natale, however, says the initiative has a significant downside.
On the upside, we've got a significant contribution to what has been a humanitarian crisis. We're making a real difference to the lives of 12,000 people. On the downside, we are going to contribute to a conflict that will make a bad situation worse, and where we will see the conditions for terrorism be further enhanced through this military action in Syria.
Well, National EMTV News continues with Trukai Sports. That's coming up next. PNG's Thaddeus Katua snatches gold in the men's 60 kilogram weight division after day 5 of the Youth Commonwealth Games in Apia, Samoa. Stay tuned for that story and more.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. In boxing, and Papua New Guinea and Thaddeus Katua snatched gold in the men's 60 kg weight division after day 5 of the Youth Commonwealth Games in Apia, Samoa. Katua faced a Northern Ireland Bradley Tiemann opponent in the finals, beating his opponent in the 4th bout.
18-year-old Thaddeus Katua from the autonomous region of Bougainville, who won gold in the recent Pacific Games, has again proved his best, winning gold at the Youth Commonwealth Games in Apia, Samoa.
Nice short, sharp 2 punches from the top, but Ewing comes back. Oh, terrific.
Katua was impressive in the 4th bout, beating his opponent Bradley Tiemann from Northern Ireland in the 60 kg division. In an exclusive phone interview with PNG coach Rafael Lare in Samoa, Lare says he was happy that Katua had to follow instruction to win his fight.
Yesterday fight one time Samoa. Semi-finals one time Samoa. Me good fight long end because that all Northern Ireland they were so much classic, but the very best what me love making and Simon Morris and me see my video long semi-finals when he was fighting with England. So I studied that fight, so I got used to know how he was fighting. So I told Katua to get him on the rope because he was a very sneaky one. He was running around and getting the points, and he was getting only the points, and he was winning. So Katua get him on the ropes and put him on a corner. And that's what happened in the first round. He knocked him down. It was a almost point decision. Katua outclassing him long points. So we played him point 3-1.
Katua won in an unanimous decision to beat his opponent from Northern Ireland to grab gold for Papua New Guinea. The team will return on the 14th of September.
Nice short, sharp 2 punches from the top, but Ewing.
Rafaela Kaure, National EMTV Sports.
Well, Australia's Kiana Marshall lost her opening round women's singles tennis match against Papua New Guinea's Violet Apisa in the women's singles clash yesterday. Violet Apisa, however, went down to her Indian opponent to clinch bronze. The mixed doubles tennis team lost to India's #1 seed in the semi-finals in day 3 of competition to play off for the bronze. Stubbings and Apisa went head-to-head against Namibia, beating them to claim bronze. Violet Apisa and Matthew Stubbins proved themselves during the Pacific Games in July, taking out silver in the mixed doubles competition. Papua New Guinea has now secured a total of 3 medals in the Youth Commonwealth Games, with 2 bronze medals in tennis and a gold medal in boxing. In cricket, the ITI POMCA T20 Big Bash continued last week, with all teams vying to qualify for the final 8 in Central and in Port Moresby. Irauloa registered their first win of the tournament after defeating Kaparoko by 3 wickets in the morning match, while hosts Papaka thrashed Makerupu by 170 runs in the afternoon fixture. On Saturday, Kualahu Willie and former PNG Barramundi's player Hitolo Areni set up a huge victory for Pari over Kaparoko by 160 runs. Kira Kira secured a final spot after defeating Tarama by 6 wickets, and the United Cricket Club ended Badili Hardware Wanderers' unbeaten run with a comfortable 42-run victory, with PNG Barramundi's opening batsman Lega Siaka managing another half-century. The ITI POMCA T20 Big Bash concludes this weekend with all 4 elimination finals to take place tomorrow, with the semi-finals and grand final to take place at Amini Park on Sunday. In football, and the Port Moresby Soccer Association select side is on the verge of creating history, as they will soon play host to Asian champions Pesupura FC. The match is scheduled for the 14th of September at the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium and is part of the nation's capital Independence Day celebrations.
While just an exhibition match, there is a lot to play for as well.
PMSA, who are currently also preparing for the Southern Regional leg of the Besta Cup, will be using the match as valuable match experience for their players. And they will need it. Persipura are currently ranked near the top echelon of the Asian Football Confederation, qualifying for the semi-finals of the AFC Champions League. And have played big matches throughout the club's 52-year history, including the likes of Brazilian champion Santos, who they beat by 2-1 in a friendly match in 2013. The early years were not filled with a lot of achievements. They managed only to win the Perserikatan First Division 2 times in 1979 and 1993. Other than that, they were runners-up at the 1980 season. The first achievements in the modern era is by winning the 2005 Liga Indonesia Premier Division. Since the introduction of the Indonesian Super League under coach Jackson F. Thiago, they have enjoyed a successful run by winning 3 titles and finished 3 times as runner-up. They have also produced many players who have been used by the Indonesian national football team. PMSA have not had much game time, to say the least. Unlike the Mamasan Islands regions, which have had success nationally, suspensions over the past decade or so have had their effect on this association. The friendly is set for the 14th of September and will be held at the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium in Port Moresby. Jeremy Moggy, National, EMTV Sports.
Well, Trukai Sports continues after this break with more sporting action. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Good to have you back with Trukai Sports. The Office of the Ministry of Sports has refuted claims made by an architectural firm on outstanding payments dating back to 2012. In a call to the Minister of Sports Secretary, the office denied that any agreement was made on behalf of the government for both immediate redevelopment design works for repairs and a new stadium development concept. Earlier, claims had been made by Future World Designs, a Port Moresby-based firm, that they were owed just over 2 million kina in outstanding payments. The stadium in question is the Lloyd Robson in the nation's capital. While the success of rugby league, in particular, the Hunters have indicated the growth of the code and talent in Papua New Guinea, questions have been raised over why the PNG RFL have yet to secure a contract deal with the National Rugby League. Chief Executive Officer of the prestigious Ipatas Cup, Timothy Lepa, has called on the PNG RFL to perhaps look north and invest in other avenues other than the Entrust Super Cup.
Mr. Lepa's concerns come after 2 years of success with the Hunters program and no indication of any player into the National Rugby League. He says more than 30 million kina has been spent on the SB-PNG Hunters in the Entrust Super Cup in Queensland and no player has been selected into NRL yet. The main goal was to sell players into the NRL market and not winning the Entrust Super Cup. Last year, Gary Lowe earned a gig with English rugby league club Gateshead Thunder, a deal that fell through with Lowe returning to Papua New Guinea shortly after. While many individuals have proven to be NRL worthy, Israel Elliott being the strongest candidate after being named 5'8" of the year for the Entrust Super Cup, the question now remains open for the PNG RFL. Lorraine Genia, National, EMTV Sports.
To NRL now, and for the first time in history, the Roosters and the Storm will meet in the first finals match, a rather surprising stat given the success both clubs have enjoyed in the modern era.
Melbourne will be chasing their first finals win since the 2012 Grand Final. But it will be a tough task against the minor premiers who are 12-game winning streak into September. The Storm are displaying strong form in their own right, with their last 3 wins coming against the teams that finished inside the top 5.
From Harris and Main will score. I thought they might have stopped it, but they've gone on with it.
Both teams have met twice this year. Cooper Cronk proved to be the catalyst with a game-winning field goal for the Storm in round 7. But the man in purple will have fresh memories of their last trip to Allianz Stadium, back in round 12 when they were handed their biggest loss of the year to the tune of 24-2.
Maloney looking for 6 more tackles. Maloney's been outstanding in that area so far.
Though given, Melbourne's origin stars were battle-weary, and Gerard Warrior Hargraves, who dominated that night, will be watching from the stands. The major talking point heading into tonight's match will be the fitness of Storm skipper Cameron Smith. The champion hooker has not trained all week and was absent from Monday's captain's call as he continues to battle a virus that has left him bedridden. Shane Saroyan National, EMTV Sports.
Well, True Guy Sports wraps up on that note. The weather details coming up after these short messages. Stay tuned.
True Guy Sports. True Guy Sports.
All right, now taking a look at the weather forecast for the next 12 hours in southern region, Port Moresby and Alatau to look forward to cloudy weather with patches of rain. In Momase, cloudy weather expected with rain periods in Ley City. In the New Guinea Islands, mostly fine and windy in Lorengau and Kavieng. And lastly, in the Islands region, Mount Hagen, Mendi and Wabik to look forward to cloudy weather with rain periods. Well, that wraps up the news this Friday. From the news crew, I'm Tokana Hasavi Jr. Thanks for your company. You take care and enjoy your weekend. Good night.